Now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
All right. Well, good afternoon, everybody, or good morning, depending where you're joining us. Peter, are you with us?
I am.
There he is. And you guys will notice, if you've been on a Profitable Firm webinar before, that today you actually get to see your speakers, or you should be able to. So here's me, and there's Peter. I can't see him, but I'm going to trust that his little box is appearing there, and that you can see him.
Yeah, I can see you, Karen. I see both of us. So
that's good. Okay, so we're all set there, and hopefully you can all see the slides as well, and all of that. Let me just do a quick test. If you have heard anything that I have said in the last minute, just click the raise hand button or type in a little comment into the questions box just so that we know. Good. We have a few people who can see us, Peter, so that is good. And I always mention this all the way through. If you have, not just if you have questions, but if you have any comments or something that you just want to contribute, we've got you all muted because, as we've noticed before with webinars, if we unmuted you, we'd get fire engines going by and things happening and people coming in and out. So that's the reason. But please don't hesitate to be part of this webinar by typing in a question. We'll either address it immediately or we'll do it later on. So what else was I going to say? I think that's about it. Let's just launch in and start talking about management accounts, if that's all right. So if you haven't joined us before, my name's Karen Reyburn. I'm one of the owners, founders of the Profitable Firm, and our remit is simply to help accountants get more business using online marketing. So we just address everything online marketing-wise, from websites to becoming an outsourced marketing department and everything in between. I'm a CPA in the States, but I live and work in the UK. I'm actually in Scotland right now. Oddly enough, Peter, who is from the States, is also in the UK, but in a different location, so we are maximizing our...
Yeah, I'm in Leeds right now.
Leeds.
I'm in Leeds
okay.
Now, yes.
So Peter's in Leeds, and I'm in Scotland, and half of you are in the UK, and a quarter of you are in America, and the rest of you, I don't know where you all are. So feel free to type that into the comments section and tell us where you're joining us from if you'd like. But the point is, Peter and I both have a lot of understanding of the accountancy industry, and we want to help accountants use all the amazing tools and skills at your disposal to help your clients better. And we asked Peter to join us because ProfitSee is a lovely add-on to Xero that helps you do management accounts in the cloud. I know you guys have heard us say this before at the Profitable Firm. We never restrict you and say you should only ever use ProfitSee or Xero or Profitable Firm or whatever. Use what's useful to you. But we like ProfitSee, and we think they have really cool stuff, so we're happy to have Peter sharing his perspectives. But this is not a sales pitch for either of us. It's a sharing of concepts, and if you get helpful things out of it and don't end up working with us, that doesn't bother us in the slightest. And if you end up wanting to, that's fine as well. So that's who we are. Peter, do you want to give a little bio, intro, say hello?
Yeah, I mean, just really briefly, I started doing transitions and turnarounds in multinationals back in 1983. I had a lot of hair then. It was black. I shifted in the 90s to helping the SME marketplace, the small mid-sized business marketplace. Got a little fed up with the cultural issues. But one of the things that came about of that was a specific discipline as how to really do account management and fiscal management of companies on a lot of levels. And so I'm just delighted to talk about that. The tools that we've built in ProfitSee are basically designed to help you do it in a very cost-effective and efficient way. They're not reporting to. Those are historical. We give you all the reports, but the idea is how do you help proactively build financial stability, profitability, valuation into the future. And that's kind of what today is about. How do you do that?
Cool. Excellent. I've just had somebody type in, he said, I thought ProfitSee integrates with QuickBooks too. Is that right?
That is true. We were a U.S.-based company. Then we started out with as a strategic partnership with QuickBooks. I actually served on their Executive Advisory Council, and yeah, we have quite a few QuickBooks products as well.
Great. Okay, good question, Robert. Thanks for that, because that happens a lot. There's so many things that so many of these products integrate with, and we'll be talking later about how that's so valuable to you, that there's all these integrations, which is, again, wonderful, because if you use QuickBooks and don't use Xero, then, you know, that's still fine. But even if
and by the way,
oh, go ahead.
I wanted to say we've had a 6-year relationship with QuickBooks, and we won App of the Year 2011, but they're kind of like wrestling with crocodiles, you know. We really, really love our relationship with Xero. Obviously, whatever you use, we're here to help you guys build your practices. So.
Yeah, great. And yeah, at the end of the day, you know, whether you use ProfitSee or there's lots of other ones as well. Hopefully, these principles will still apply, so we're not restricting you to that. But Peter's got some thoughts on some specifics. So, Peter, I'm going to let you talk about why management accounts are still critical. Obviously, people would not be on the call today if they didn't believe this, but just to address a few issues about that.
Yeah, one of the things I observed from 30 years of trying to help businesses move along was that people were very, very confused on what people in financial management, fiscal management in a corporation really do. So obviously the most basic level is bookkeeping. Then the next level is kind of like a controller or a comptroller. That's cost control. Then from there, kind of move to VP of Finance, and the objective there is you generate budgets, you try and monitor what's going on in departments. But the CFO has a very, very unique job, and that is the CFO is supposed to look at all the assets and all the resources of the company and figure out the best way to leverage them to create a greater return for the business. So they're not only involved in budgetary controls, they also are into creation of capital, they're into how to create tactics and strategies within the business in conjunction with the other departments, and the objective obviously is to improve the valuation of the company in big companies. Now, usually CFOs have to have really, really very, very expensive people like analysts to run the kind of numbers that take place in account management. But because of what's happened in the cloud and the latest types of tools available through programming languages that basically weren't here 3 or 4 years ago, this is what's become available to the accountancy world, to their SME companies. Keep in mind, small and mid-sized businesses, if they have financial issues, they can't talk to the employees, because if they're making money, the employees want to know why they're not paid more. If they're not making money, they can't talk to them because their highest talent will leave. They trust you to talk to them about the money. So we feel it's almost, you almost have a fiduciary responsibility to try and help them understand it, but they certainly can't afford £400,000 or £500,000 for a CFO, but they can afford to put you on retainer by giving them those tools. So that's really what the real job of a CFO is.
Can I ask a question, Peter? When you say CFO, would you say, I know you've been wandering around the UK as well, would people tend to use finance director over here, or would they use CFO as well? Sometimes the dual languages confuse me as well.
Yeah, you know, to me a finance director is more equivalent to a VP of Finance. They're on the executive management team, but they aren't quite as proactively involved as the CEO and the president in making that transition. You usually have to be in companies that are doing over, $100 million a year to start considering having a CFO.
Okay, that's useful to know, because a lot of the accountants that I end up speaking to are often talking about FD work or outsourced FD work, which is very similar, I think, to what you're talking about. So it sounds like the FD would just be a little bit smaller, CFO, bigger company.
Yeah, I think one of the distinguishing factors is an FD is not looking at capital formation, literally creating capital or reallocation of assets, or how do we liquidate something or get rid of a department or a division. And so there's nuances in it, but ultimately it comes down to how do you leverage a rate of return on the assets.
Yeah. Great. All right, so I'm going to let you talk about these 8 disciplines.
One of the things that happened to me in the 80s when I was working with a lot of multinationals was I kind of figured out that there were 8 core disciplines that inflict themselves on any company, like it or not. And I wound up writing a book about this called Building Your Multi-Million Dollar Practice. And so, you know, when Karen and I were talking, we thought an easy way to help understanding what is account management is to understand what these disciplines are. So these are my phrases, you know, they're trademarked in our book and all this, but they'll be simpler to understand. So let me just kind of talk to you what they are. The first is, what is the client experience? And so that means, what do the people who shop from, engage in services from your business clients, what is the experience like? What's the sales process? Is it a push sell? Is it a pull sell? Is it driven by direct marketing? Is it relationship management? How do you define it? Do you have an office? Do they come in? Is it comfortable and warm? Or do you serve coffee? Is the coffee Maxwell House in a styrofoam cup? Or do you roast your own beans and put it in a Xero compressor machine and serve it in crystal? All those things have an impact on making a huge impression with clients, because when you have clients and customers for a business, you want a lifetime relationship. The client experience is so powerful that in the United States, some of the major wirehouses who've been involved in horrid lawsuits and fraudulent activities and have had people thrown in jail and sued are still able to sustain a huge client base, because people come into the office, there's the teak tables and the rosewood floors, and we treat you like a multi-billionaire. And client experience, very, very important part of it. Top of mind awareness, what does this mean? How does the business take their target audience, and when they have a need, an itch, an urge, a pain, a desire, you are the first person they think of. So those are all the elements in strategic marketing, you know, competitive analysis, competitive advantage, differentiation, branding, mission, vision, value statements, taglines, color schemes, logos, elevator statements, advertising, PR. There's like, I think there's 12 disciplines in there. But how does that work? Third discipline, workflow and operations. This is one of the biggest challenges to small and mid-sized businesses. Most business owners who even have 3 or 4 or 5 employees do not realize that the process of making the company work involves between 1,000 and 1,500 steps. And I'm not talking about putting a paper clip on a piece of paper and putting it in a binder. There really are that many steps. I've done the workflows. And so if your business owners are sitting there going, that's why. It's just a lot to cover. And the challenge there becomes is, how do you create efficiency in that? So that's workflow and operations. Fourth, compliance and regulatory law. This is continuing to get significantly worse and worse because of the financial crisis, and in some places by extreme activity of the government. I know 3 years ago I did an assessment of a sample of companies in the U.S. that are in service-based businesses, and I found that from a break-even perspective, compliance and regulatory fulfillment was eating up about 17 to 18% of the break-even revenue. This used to be back at 4 or 5% about 15 years ago. So it's a big issue with most businesses. Technology. Technology is probably the easiest way to create efficiency, and so, you know, that involves what technology you're using. Is it cloud? Is it LAN? Is it web? One of my funniest stories was a very large service organization out on the East Coast, and they were right near one of the Ivy League schools, servicing people in the Ivy League, you know, community. And they had all of their internet access going through the receptionist's computer, which was 8 years old, and had an analog modem in it. And literally, I watched her try to type something. She touched the letter A, and you could count 1,000, 2, 1,000, 3, 1,000, 4, 1,000 before the letter appeared on the word processing file.
Sounds like
they didn't want to spend $2,000. Typewriter would have been faster. They didn't want to spend $2,000 to get a new piece of technology. At any rate, so that's technology. Human resources and org D. You know, do you have the right people in the right seat on the bus? Do I have someone who crosses the T's and dot the I's and is very, very process-driven, and I'm putting them in a sales role? No. So how do you put people in the right chair? Fiscal and asset management. This is very, very different than accounting and compliance. This is, if we're going to start a new department, a new division, if we're going to decide to sell a new product, how do I build kind of the sophisticated what-if algorithms? How much is it going to cost? What's the rate of return? Of course, if it works, everybody looks like a genius, but if it isn't working, when do I get out? How do I do that in a timely way with tax? Anyhow, so that's that discipline. And finally, strategic and functional business planning. And the big news here is, if they haven't really built a vision, a long-term vision of the company, then they don't know where they're going, and they won't like where they wind up. So those are the disciplines that really go into business operations, and they are very, 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 very much the things that account management has to focus on. So we're going to be
reason Peter and I were talking about this before, the reason we're sharing this with you, obviously, you know, you guys will be familiar with this, but if you're going to be addressing management accounts, then addressing these, and correct me if I'm wrong, Peter, but what we're saying is these 8 things are, in a sense, integral to the management accounts process, really. Is that fair?
That's very, very true. And just to kind of throw this into context, over the last 25 years, I've been fortunate enough to either work with or know quite a few CFOs of Fortune 200 companies. The good ones understood that these 8 disciplines were the things they had to focus on, but the number that I thought knew what they were doing, I could count on one hand and have some fingers left over. Yep. So this isn't complicated. It's just knowing how to address it, and when you present the opportunity for helping the company. You don't throw all 8 of them at once, right? But,
absolutely.
But this is what's involved in it. Yeah.
Yeah. Cool.
Okay, is this my slide still?
This one's you, I think, talking about how the traditional reporting tools.
You know, traditional reporting tools tend to be historical in nature. You know, you look back, and whether it's the P&L statement or the balance sheet or the KPIs, and they're looking at things historically. Now, if you told, for example, your business owner, you do realize that your P&L doesn't tell you whether you're making money or losing money. They will stare at you and go, what? You know, the balance sheet, oh my God. Let me take an example. Let's say there's a business loan, right? So the business loan is paid every month. In the P&L statement, the interest payment shows up. Where does the principal portion show up? Well, it shows up in the balance sheet. Can you really see it? No, you don't, because it's a reduction in the liability. And because most people look at the balance sheet on a year-to-date basis, I can't even compare previous months in a trend towards reduction in liability. Owner's comp, that's a great one. Tax law is very sophisticated. A lot of business owners, you know, for example, my wife and I own 4 businesses. Why? For tax strategies. They're legitimate companies, but we've structured them in terms of type and location and so on from a tax strategy basis. Do we pay ourselves on payroll? No. Well, on one of the companies we do, right, because we want to pay the minimum amount of the Social Security stuff. But do we pay ourselves? No. What we do is we borrow money from one of the companies, and then we reconcile it at the end of the year in the tax statement. Many, many businesses do that. It's wonderful, but you know what that means? That the owner's comp doesn't show up in the P&L statement. And as a matter of fact, it does show up in the balance sheet, but not as a liability. It shows up as an asset. The company has loaned you something, and so now the P&L and the balance sheet are whacked. The traditional way of looking at generally accepting accounting principles is a complete mystery to the business owners. How can they make smart financial decisions with those types of elements? And don't get me talking about triple cash flow forecasting. We call it balance sheet forecasting in the U.S. Forecast tool 3 years on one of our software products, and it broke the bank in terms of the number of attendees. We couldn't even fit everybody in who wanted to know about it.
Yeah.
Traditional tools really don't provide an active, proactive approach towards managing the company.
Which leads us really well into how the cloud actually does. And what I wanted to share, I put this together, and this is based on real experience. I know Peter has it. I have had it myself. My business partner Sean in Profitable Firm is also a chartered accountant, and he's had this experience. And there's an old way to doing, as Peter was saying, the traditional reporting, the way that we've done it in the past. There's an old way of doing that, and there's a new way of doing it. And this old way that I've sketched out, now this might be a little different for everybody, you might not use Excel or whatever, but roughly you're looking at exporting your data from wherever it is to somewhere else. Then you, the accountant, the owner of the accountancy firm or the partner, you are often doing the financial review and preparing a report, or somebody else prepares a report, but then you have to print off the whole thing and review it again. Then you've got a couple hours to meet with the client and go into detail on all of these things that Peter has discussed. And if you possibly have time, you'll identify some key strategic actions. But really what often happens is they come in and say, listen, my top issue is I need to know if I have enough money to hire somebody. And so, you pull out the things and you jump from balance sheet to profit and loss, and you go back and forth, and they go, okay, so what are you saying? What are you saying? Can I or can't I? And so it ends up being you have all this data, but as Peter says, the client is often a bit confused, or if they're not confused because you explain it well, there's still a truckload of time that's involved in that. So the new way element, I'm just going to bring all of these up actually, is that first you just kind of churn out some easy reports from Xero or whatever your add-on is, or your online thing. If you've got them in the cloud, you just press a few buttons and churn out a report. Then you review them, look them over, make a few edits, whatever the output is. You have your meeting with the client, and your focused time, big bulk of your time, is to meet with them and to talk about the important things. And then you've got a little more time to catch up with them 2 weeks later and see how it went. And what I've put here is number 5 is you've actually got, I don't know if I put, so I've got total time here about 3 hours for all that, 9 hours for that. You've got 6 hours to do whatever with the client or not with the client, with some other client.
I have to tell a funny story. And ProfitSee has actually been in business, will be 6 full years come December. So we're actually as old as Xero, which is kind of interesting. But initially when we got started, I was visiting some, what I would call the mid-tier mature accounting firms, right? And so we were showing what the tool did, because it really was management accounting, account strategies like we've talked about. And I mean, it was building what-if scenarios, and it was doing, just really the stuff that was the analysts were doing in the big companies. And the principal sitting with me says, oh, we already do that. Oh, well, we already do that. Well, we already do that. And I said, yeah, you're doing them with spreadsheets, aren't you? He says, yes. I said, you're billing the hours that they're taking the time to build those spreadsheets, aren't you? He said, yes. I said, okay, let me build you a scenario. We did it in 4 minutes. And I said, and I'm overlaying the cash flow analysis of this on an artificial intelligence-driven budget, which accounts for seasonality and trend and eliminates anomaly in a projection to show where the rate of return is, and I did it in 5 minutes. And he looked at me, and he said, well, we can't use that. I said, why not? Where would all my billing time go? I won't say any more.
There's no more to be said there, but I've had a similar kind of story with actually Sean Walsh, my business partner, does some finance director work himself, and he started using ProfitSee. He tried a couple of the other ones as well, but I actually got a bulk of this old way, new way stuff from the story that he told me about how he used to do all of this stuff, and he says, literally, Karen, now I get one of the team to do this, and he said there was one, like he does these meetings, these management meetings, he has them every month, and he said there's some days when I come in 10 minutes early, 10 minutes to 9, I grab the report, I glance it over, and I go into the meeting. And he said that's not because I'm not ready, it's not because I'm disorganized, it's because I already know so much about the company that all I need is a few pages to share with them, and then we spend the bulk of the time of the meeting on the things that the client cares about. And if the meeting only takes an hour Or if it takes an hour to go over financial stuff and then you have an hour to actually chat to them and how are things going and, I don't know, talk about some of the other 7 disciplines within the company, then all the better. Like, it really, really does save that much time. And
now, Karen,
the thing that accountants are always asking me for is more time.
Karen?
Yes?
Now make sure you tell them I did not pay you to say that.
Peter did not pay me, Sean did not pay me, and that is, I will say as well, that anything we ever recommend to you, nobody ever pays us to say it.
No,
we
absolutely
think
not.
Xero is wonderful, but Xero doesn't pay us any.
One other comment on this. You know, if you've ever tried to build a spreadsheet that did what-if analysis, you know how complicated it is. I literally have brought in years ago to train analysts in Fortune 200s on how to do that whole thing. The largest one I ever built had 100,000 equations in it. It was in a merger acquisition. It worked. I will never ever do that again. But the thing that we tried.
Oh, go ahead.
What we tried to do is if you build a scenario, it keeps it forever. And you just modify the date and the value sets and it readjusts it. And if the history is past, then it won't list it, or you could turn it on and off. You can literally build a set of tools for your business clients. You look like a genius, and kaboom, it's right there for them. So.
And the amazing thing is, like, I worked with accountants for 5 years. In my last kind of previous life, I've worked with accountants on this, what in those days was the downloadable software. And I tell you, the #1 product that accountants used and wanted to use more was the what if analysis, the profit improvement, and the management accounts. And the management accounts product was actually good in principle, but it still took this kind of time. And I am genuinely blown away by how much time you can save by doing management account stuff in the cloud, because, and we'll talk about this a little bit later, that means that either you can use that extra time just to be more profitable, or you can offer it to clients who maybe would really like to use that, but they don't have tons of money to pour into it. And they can do a little bit, and you can have an hour meeting with them every month or every 3 months or something. But we'll talk about that a little bit.
Yeah, that'll be fun a little later. So.
Yeah. All right. So common obstacles. So Peter and I have done these together. Peter's come up with some obstacles, like reasons that it might be difficult to provide management reports to your client, like your obstacles. And then Profitable Firm has input what you can do about it. So we're going to do a little back and forth here. So I'm going to let Peter start with this one.
You know, one of the biggest challenges we have is every industry sector has its own vocabulary. And this is why I love academics, because they're taking things that the average person should be able to understand, and they use such sophisticated words that they feel good about themselves and no one else what they're talking about, but of course we know they're brilliant. Well, accountancy works the same way. Even what I mentioned before, a profit statement doesn't tell you whether you're making a profit or making a loss. A triple cash flow analysis, what does that mean? And yet the banks are asking for it. One of the most common obstacles is we talk to our clients in language that's common to us. We know exactly what it is, and they just don't want to look dumb. So they'll sit there and nod. And a lot of times they don't ask anymore, or they'll say something like, I just want to know, do I have enough money? So to me, that's one of the biggest, most common obstacles. We have to talk to them in language and terms that are simple for them to understand. 5th grade language, not 8th grade language.
Yep, and what I've put in here, I've got 2 things. The first one, and we were presuming that most of you know what both of these are. Peter knew the first one, so this one is the keep it simple, stupid. And this one is just, it's used the world over, and I think that's because we all know that we should keep things simple, but it's hard to look at it from the client's perspective. I deal with this so often when I'm helping accountants with their online marketing. They've got a brilliant idea of something to go on the website, a blog post, a new landing page, a video, whatever. But then when they give me the stuff that they would like to go on, our team looks at it and says, well, we're probably going to cut out 80% of these words. We're going to make this one a big header. We're going to change this sentence, and we're going to put a button at the end that says download now. And when the accountant looks at it, they go, oh, yeah, I see that. That's very, very simple, which is fine. That's how it's supposed to work. But what I'm encouraging you to do is when you're thinking about offering management accounts to your clients, you've got to, in terms of terminology, you can either, and we'll talk about this later, you can either use terminology that's built into something like ProfitSee or whatever, or you can come up with your own, but it has to be simple. And it also has to answer this question, what's in it for me?
For me.
So
I got
me,
educated by what this meant today. So
Peter said, what's with him?
Yeah.
But that's what that one is it's all about what's in it for them. So if you're going to offer them management accounts, really what you're offering them is the opportunity to discuss big, important financial decisions with you. I think one accountant I know marketed it as with the element of if you're going to make any decision, should I buy a vehicle for the company? Should I hire more people? And he went from that approach of the questions that you want answered. He said, we encourage you to talk to us every time you have one of those decisions to make. And if you sign up for this package, you will be doing that on such a regular basis that you won't get to the end of the year and be sitting there in January or in April if you're in the U.S. and saying, oh, that's how much the tax is going to cost? I didn't realize that.
Mm-hmm.
So you're addressing those obstacles with them and test it. Ask a non-accountant, some colleague or friend of yours who is not an accountant but is a savvy business owner, and ask them if they can clearly understand your blog post or your landing page or your packages or your whatever. You can test it out with the people on your team, but they're going to understand the terminology. All right, so the second one, Peter, with the this is probably along the same kind of lines as what we've been saying. I don't know if you have anything to add.
Let me talk about this a little bit. The original ProfitSee tools were basically built to emulate what the Big Four were offering to the Fortune 100. So very high-level, sophisticated, elegant, and in the U.S. marketplace, because there's a lot of accountancy firms, whether they're the regionals, the Eide Baileys, the Moss Adams, they're starting to do this, right? So the tool was built from the top down. And when I was on the West Coast and met the original 8 employees from Xero, they looked at the product and said, oh my God, can you do this with our tools? And I said, well, sure, well, you have your APIs, right? So within 3 weeks, the APIs had been built in, and we went through the process of correcting, making it look beautiful. And we went to our first XeroCon in summer of Australia, summer meaning June, in Australia in last year, 2013. We had a very, very nice response. And then we went to the US XeroCon, then we went to the first UK XeroCon, then at any rate. But what I discovered as we went along, that our tools were a little past what some of the market needs were in Australia and New Zealand. And so we had to create things that were a little simpler. And they kept trying to compare us to reporting tools. Now, look, any app gives you reporting tools. There's no such thing as no reporting, right? But I looked at the other reporting tools, and I won't name names because some of you guys may be using them and knowing them, and they're good products. This is not trying to bash anybody. But the problem was, I don't care how pretty you make the P&L. I don't care how graphically gorgeous and you readjusting the balance sheet looks like. That isn't what the owner wants to know. So what we decided was we had to think of it from the owner's perspective. So what does the owner want to know? We actually came up with 8 core things. I'm not going to go through all of them, but they basically, how much can I pay myself? If I want to pay myself a certain amount of money, how much revenue do I have to generate? What if I don't pay all of my bills this month because we're in a tight position? How does that affect cash flow? What's my true break even? How much do I really owe in taxes right now? I'd really like to contact my CPA, but they never answer the phone, so I want to make sure he can respond to me. If I sell another 1,000, how much of that is net pre-tax? I'd really like to know when my cash reserve falls below this amount, and I need to know that within 2 weeks. I really want to know when it rises above this point, because that's when I can buy my wife the sports car. Those are the things they really want to know. So what we did was we created a whole new product called MBA, which not only provides all the traditional stuff that our other products do, we don't do some of the more advanced things, but it allows the business owner on a smartphone or a tablet to see all of these things. More importantly, what we did was we white labeled all of our products, because I don't care if any of your business owners know who ProfitSee is. I want them to know who you are. And so with our product set, you literally put your logo in it. The user interface is on your logo. With a button, you can switch on or off which features that are in there. And you're touching them. I mean, you could touch them 300 times a year because these are things they're interested in. Mm-hmm. We just released that product about 7 weeks ago. It's like $18 US. And needless to say, it's been interesting. But the point was, we tried to set the priorities to what the business owner wanted to know. That's so important for you. Whatever you're doing for delivery, it's what they want to know.
Just to clarify then, Peter, you're saying on this, so this thing that the business owners are logging into, does the accountant have the ability to put other things in there, or is it just based on what you guys put in?
Well, the product, the MBA product, looks exactly like the CFO product and the analyst and Snap, and it does all those things. Well, not all of them, because it's the less expensive product. But from your side, you're looking at everything you would look at in looking at any one of the ProfitSee products based on the number of features at the price point. But what we do is there's an app or a URL login for your client, and when they tap into it, up on their smart device pops this interface on the things they want to know. You can open a tab and see exactly what they're seeing, but the point was we wanted to make it inexpensive and simple for them to see that you're the ones that are telling them what they want to know. We're, not to harp on our product set, but you couldn't pay the administrative costs of printing out the reports for what the licensing of this for a month is.
But that's the
beauty it is what they
want
anything. To know.
That's the beauty of anything in the cloud, is that it's so changeable, and you see that with all these various tools, and as you said, the APIs, which is, if you don't know what that is, that's the thing that just links two systems together, which means that all of these systems play really nice together, and it's really easy to make changes. And that's really important. I think we pretty much addressed how to address that. So if the issue is that your management reports are not addressing those obstacles, focus on the results, focus on real-life examples, what-if analysis. That's the kind of thing you want to be focusing on when you're talking to your clients. About management reporting, or about anything else, really. You've got to bear this in mind. Your whole website and all your emails and everything has to be around the question that they're asking. So if we go back to this slide where the business owner is saying, how much can I pay myself? If you've got a really great resource of some kind, whether it's an ebook or a white paper, a download or a video or whatever, and it's about understanding your break-even, then this would be a better title, how much do I have to make in order to break even, than break-even analysis and your company. So you're thinking about it from their side, and if you're not sure, get some help. Ask us, ask Peter, ask somebody, ask a non-accountant, but just try some things to make sure that your management accounts and reporting are not just saying, here's a service called management accounts. Many business owners say, I don't know what that is, but I don't think I need it, I just need my accounts. But you want to show them otherwise.
Karen, let me play off of something that you said that is so simple, but it's so powerful. Business owners want to know, what is the impact of increasing revenue, right? It's a very simple thing. And there's like a magic formula for doing that, because if I know what my variables are, my variables, I know that what margin is left over. I know what my G&A is, my fixed, and that doesn't change each month until I hit a capacity. If I know where my true break-even is, I'm accounting for tax, depreciation, fixed, variable against revenue. They equal, they're the same. Here's what the magic is. Every dollar above that true break-even, anything that's fixed, anything that's depreciation, anything that is not a variable expense, is the percentage of the true break-even is how much net pre they make. That simple formula will make you look like a wizard. And again, it's simple things, but you have to deliver it in a simple way, and then you can say, look, this is why it's good to build a strategy.
Yep.
This is why you hire an additional person, because the rate of return is going to be there in 4 months.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so I think this is the last of the common obstacles, is that the reports that you currently give them, if you're not using clear ones that are focused on them, can potentially be very confusing to them. I certainly know this from experience when I worked with an accountancy firm in Scotland, and we set up a consultancy firm, and the reports that the partners were giving their clients, and I'm in the meeting to talk about strategy and all that, the big picture stuff, and they're pulling out these P&Ls and balance sheets and KPIs, and it's Excel sheets with columns of numbers, and I'm looking at it going, I mean, here's a perfect example. The Profitable Firm, we actually use we used to use Excel, and now we use Xero and the add-ons to churn out reports. My business partner used to send me Excel spreadsheets, and I tell you, I would get them, look at them, and go, I don't know what it means. I'm an accountant. Like, I'm a CPA in the States. I've been working in the accounting industry for probably almost 20 years now, and I would look at them and go, exactly what Peter's saying, what does it mean? Like, I'm an owner of the Profitable Firm, and all I want to know, as Peter's saying, is, can we hire some more people? Which people can we hire? How much should we? Which ones should we do? And for which category? And which one of our clients is it? You know, all of this information. So if you're giving your clients reports that they can't download and or look at or whatever and go, oh, yeah, that makes sense because that happened to me. We started using Xero. Sean sent me a report, and I went, oh, that makes perfect sense. I see exactly what you're saying, and I'm better able to make a decision. It was amazing to see that from a client perspective to me.
Short story. About 7 years ago, I got called in to a Fortune 200. A new president in one of the divisions of this big company came in, and he says, I've got 12 analysts. I'm not sure. I don't feel comfortable. Can you look at some of their models? And out came these huge spreadsheets. And again, this is a billion-dollar, multi-billion-dollar division. And he said, I don't know. I'm just sensing I'm confused by this. I said, let me look at it. So I came back a day and a half later, and I said, yeah, you should be glad I looked at it. He said, why? I said, because there's a 9-figure error in this. And these are people that supposedly know what they're doing. The idea of presenting spreadsheets to me is just you're guaranteeing they're going to be confused, because if these guys could confuse someone running a multinational, trust me, they don't get it.
And I'm going to address a common objection which I know I've heard before. Maybe nobody on the call is thinking it, but I've heard accountants say, well, if I make it so simple that my client can understand it, then why do they need me? And this is a real problem mentally. If you're thinking that way, then either you're already worried about that client and you think they're going to leave anyway, or number two, you're not seeing the incredible value that you add to these reports. Because if you give them a 2-page report that they can easily understand with big numbers and bullet points and one action or whatever, then the client is going to value even more because you take, and if you want to, bring the Excel spreadsheet. Show them both. Say, listen, we started with this, but we thought you would like this. What client wouldn't like that? So the thing we have for addressing this is that when you're presenting this to the client, whether it's in a presentation or a report or an email or a Skype call or whatever, use the order of priority that they want and that's important to them. And I've got a suggestion here of starting with a summary, then the key problems, then the dashboards. That's just a suggestion. You can use your own. But that was our thoughts on making it about them and not about you.
Just a comment. I couldn't agree with you more. No matter how the business owner is wired, you have to hit the highlights because that's the what's in it for them. You start with the bullets. And if you think you're worried about, well, making it simple, then where's the value in me? The value isn't in the reports or what they show. The value is in the conversation you're having with them as to what the report implies and how that relates to the longer-term strategy of the business, how that's going to position the valuation of the company, why they can afford to take their significant other for a month in the west half of Greece for summer. Those are the things that are of value to them. Your value is not in the report generation. It's in the communication as to what it implies for the company.
Which exactly leads us to what we're going to talk about next. There's a few challenges that you've got on your own end to actually providing these. And one of those, I'm bringing these up now, is one of those has to do with billing using an hourly rate, which I think exactly applies to what Peter has just been saying. If your fear is, oh no, I've just chopped out 7 of 9 hours, which means I can only bill 2 hours, then you're not going to be as profitable. But if, and I know many of you use fixed fees now for, again, the reason that the client doesn't want to get surprised. But even still, if you give them a quote based on the time you expect that it will take, and if suddenly it takes you half the time, if it's a fixed fee, that's the fee. Is that fair to say, Peter?
Yeah, again, I went through this myself because initially when I started doing, my kind of work, I billed by the hour. That lasted about 3 weeks because then I found people were worried about the clock. And then the next thing I did was I thought I'd bill by the day. And that ended because the business owners thought the day started at 6 a.m. and ended at midnight. So that didn't last too long. Mm-hmm. So then I tried to bill by project. And that didn't work because if I was billing by a project, there was a beginning, there was an end, and it had a finality to it. So what I finally learned is the way you do that is you define objectives and you go on a retainer, a monthly retainer. Let me tell you why this works. First of all, the business owner is concerned about the cost side. Think about why a business owner doesn't call a lawyer. Because if they call the lawyer to ask, how do I get to your office, they're going to get billed for 15 minutes at $500 an hour, and they don't want to talk to the lawyer, And even if it's about a legal question, the lawyers are billing them by the hour, so how do we get into that? The key thing is how do you create a great perception of value that has real value without them knowing how much time you're spending on it. That's what the real objective is. One of the things that I learned how to do was how to use the tools to be a CFO to these companies, where I told them once a month, here's what's going to happen. I'm going to send you key performance reports monthly. Every week I'm going to send you a financial report. I'm going to be monitoring the performance of the company daily. Once a month we're going to talk about what's going on and where it's going on in strategy. We're not watching the clock. If it's an hour, if it's 3, I don't care. This is about your company. When we come into last quarter, we're going to sit down and build business strategy, and we're going to build the cash flow projections and the budget for next year. I want you to be able to give me a spot call at any time. Now, it's not stuff we're going to talk about in the month, but there's something you're concerned about. Spot call, unlimited. You call me. I can't promise I'll get back to you right away, but absolutely, within a day, I will get back to you. And this is how we're going to manage this, and it's what it costs. And then I take a long pause and I'd say, oh, there's one more thing. If for some reason I call you and say I need to talk to you, and it's not for our regularly scheduled time, you will take the call. And basically what I've done is I've created an incredible perception of value, and because they're getting the weekly reports, they're getting the KPIs, they're getting the conversations about them. We're building the tactical strategies. We've got the scenarios. All these things are coming in. This is an extremely high perception of value. And so I'm billing out $2,000 a month, and it's taken me less than 2.5, 3 hours to do it. You know how many times I would get a call on the spot call, the unlimited spot call? At one time I was carrying like 9 active clients on retainer, and it was a good year. You know how many spot calls I got that year? 3. That was it. Yeah. It was the perception of value that we're after. And for them, it's like, oh my God, I've got a CFO, and I'm not paying $240,000 for it. I've got a CFO, and he's charging me $2,400. That's what you want to be able to do. It's real value because the use of cloud-based tools provide an exceptional base of value. One other quick story. I was talking to some Australian accountants, and I was showing how through our tools you can literally automate the reports that go out and schedule when they call, even to the minute of the day that they're sent out. They're labeled with their logo and so on. And I said, it's okay. So let's say you want to send the KPI report out a month, every month. We're going to do it on the 4th day of the month. Boom. Okay, it's Tuesday, blah, 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 blah. Out it goes. They said, good. I said, now, you want to send the other financial reports, the P&L, the balance sheet, this, the whole scenario strategy and the performance against plan. I said, so you just check which ones of these things you want to do. And here, look, we'll do this. Monday morning at 8:30 a.m., to your client, your personalized report, your logo, hit the button, it goes out. He says, no, man, no, we can't do that. I said, why not? He says, you put it Sunday night at 9 p.m. I want him to think I'm working for him then. And I mean, if you've met some of the Aussies, and this is not an offense, but I mean, this literally happened. I thought, okay.
No, I would believe that, but yeah. Listen, we got to crack on. We got a lot of other things to look at, but I've just had a question come in, Peter, from somebody who's asking if they were going to see the product today, and I've just answered to say this is not a demo webinar. We're trying to give you value on the principle of it, but. John was asking, can he sign up for a trial? And I just want to confirm I've given him the right answer. Is a 14-day trial? Is that what it is?
Actually, if you are a Xero partner, we're the only add-on developer for Xero that does this. If you are a partner, if you are a bronze partner, the lowest level, you can have a lifetime license to one company for any one of our products. Lifetime. Perfect. If you are silver or higher, you get a lifetime license to every one of our products forever. For example, so one company, if it's a single company, if you're using Snap, our only reporting tool, it's 3 companies for benchmarking, 3 companies for metrics on reporting. We've got one for franchise operations, again, 3 companies in that. So no, we want you guys to use the tools.
And that's a really good point, because I think one of the things that has happened with cloud software, I put that in quotes, these cloud systems, is that what Peter's offering with ProfitSee is able to offer, because we all know that with the best will in the world, you sign up today for a 14-day trial and you blink and it's 3 weeks later. I've done this hundreds of times. And it just doesn't work. But if you do it based on a client, and you have one client that you tested on, and I will just say the best thing you can do is pick a client and just do it for them. Don't ask them. Don't tell them you're going to change the fees. Don't say we have this new product. Just go into your next management meeting and say, here, we thought we'd give you this report because it's a lot easier to understand. What do you think?
Yeah.
Guaranteed you will end up selling a lot more.
One other comment. If you are a Xero partner, and you take one of the complimentary trials that we have, the lifetime thing, you actually get 90 days of direct support with someone who is actually a specialist in how to support your use of the product and doing it. So it's pretty cool. We have a lot of body-to-body stuff. So.
Cool.
Okay, so let's go back to the presentation.
Yeah. If you want to use it, it's there to do that. So yeah, Peter, just I'm going to keep it fairly short, but just 2 or 3 minutes on how to apply what we've been talking about to those 8 areas.
Okay, so for example, how does management accounts services apply to the client experience? Well, you just say, tell me, how do you sell? Show me the facility. How come the front step is broken? You know, how come you've got an old bun coffee maker? Just the simplest things. And you say, okay, we're going to have this much output and so on and so forth. Relationship selling versus push selling. It's literally getting them to talk about it and talking about the financial implications of it. Top of mind awareness. One of the things I really, really love about what you do, Karen, is you really help them understand how to position the marketing from a top of mind awareness standpoint. I don't even know how you bill, but the idea that you can put in a model and say, okay, here's what we're going to do, these are the number of hits, this is how we're, and this is response rate, that's proactive management. Workflow and operations. Let me tell you the single biggest thing I always saw in this. They're afraid to hire another person because it feels like it's money coming out of their own wallet. You know, oh my God, that's going to be gone. You have to be able to sit down and say, look, this is causing this type of delay in terms of operation. How do I know this? Well, I've gone to talk to your team. So we're going to hire this person. This is going to improve capacity. Now you don't have all these people working their bones off, and their capacity goes down, and their cognitive skills go down. So much of this is just, it's discussion and common sense. You're trying to ease their fears, but show them how it pays off with money. Compliance and regulatory law, I'm not sure how much we can do there, but you know they face it. How do you, would it be good to use a third party, say, for some of this stuff? Technology, simple thing. Walk through. What are you using? Is it efficient? Oh my God, you're in Microsoft. You know how much that costs in support? Maybe you should go to Max. The point here is that whatever this particular discipline is, you don't even have to try and do all of them. Walk through the company, say, oh, there's the problem. Focus your attention on that. Show them how this creates a rate of return. And you're in the critical first step of building a comprehensive advisory practice with them.
Great. All right. Well, we would love to spend more time on that, but I'm going to move on because I want to have a little time to talk to you about marketing this to your clients, or even not necessarily even marketing, just telling them. I think when we think marketing, we think big expenses for lots of things, but if you have a way to tell them about the package. Now, what I want to show you on this is a screenshot of the ProfitSee website, but I'm gonna click on it and link straight to the actual website because I want to highlight the fact that ProfitSee, and again, Peter's not paying me a darn thing for this. I just think this is really cool. When you go to the site, the first thing it's asking is, well, let me just ask a few questions and make sure that I'm giving you the right information. Now, granted, we can skip that and go straight to this stuff if we want to, but of course you're going to say, okay, I'm an accountant, next. Which accounting software? Our clients use Xero, next. And then what do you want to do with ProfitSee? And the reason I'm showing you this is this kind of concept is what you want to eventually be doing for your clients. Now, whether you have a nice fancy thing on your website, you don't even have to have packages on your website. I am constantly getting accountants saying, I don't want to put my prices on, I'm terrified. Setting aside the fact that that's what all accountants are starting to do and that's what prospects expect, you don't have to. I still think it's not a bad idea depending on the type of firm you have and the type of culture you have, but you need to have it within your own firm. So if you're going to offer management accounts, you need to know what you're offering, how much it costs the client, and how much it costs you, and what's included. So I'm showing you this, and again, we're not going to do a demo of these, but as Peter said, if you're a Xero partner, you can have a lifetime free membership to one of these.
And by the way, we do hold regular group demos every couple of weeks, so I mean you can figure that out on the website. But yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Great. But that same kind of principle. Now you don't have to use the same kind of terminology that ProfitSee uses. Again, as Peter said, they do the white labeling so that it's not about ProfitSee. It's about you, the accountant, and what you're offering. But this is an important factor, is that as you begin to address these issues and problems, you want to make sure that your clients are getting a clear understanding of what they're getting, and you have a clear understanding, because the clearer it is to you, the easier it will be to sell. I'll give you an example. We recently, and many of you have seen this, we recently did a landing page on the Profitable Firm site for our outsourced marketing packages monthly and what they include, and you can download a detail thing, but we did this. It was so easy for accountants to say, oh, okay, that's what that is, that's what that includes, that's fine, that's what I want, whereas before it was more like, I'll go to the services page, this kind of thing. Lots of stuffs. And the reason I'm showing you this is I think accountants do the same thing. We were falling under the same trap that accountants fall under, is here's our services. We do accounts, we do bookkeeping, we do VAT, we do payroll, we do management accounts, we do strategy, da-da-da-da-da-da-da. And the client looks at it and goes, well, I don't know what I need, I'll just call them, I guess, which is fine. But when you talk to them, you want to be able to say, well, it sounds like from a few quick questions, it might be best to do this. And again, you don't have to name it that way, but that's just a thought that I had about, as you market management accounts to your clients, that kind of approach is a really important one.
Just a comment on that. Again, we've had people, well, can I upsell your software? I said, you can, but I sure hope you don't. Why not? Yeah. I said, because you want to white label it, it's about you. And look, the product's licensing for a company is cheaper than the administrative cost of printing out standard reports. Why would you want to upsell that? You have to include it into your retainer. And then what happens, you can look at it and say, okay, it seems to me what we really want to do is to be able to benchmark the 4 companies that your family owns in order to create metrics and understand why, what's happening, which one, why they're weak, and so on. Is that of interest to you? Oh my God, yes. That's how you approach doing this. The technology is tools to show the value you provide. They are not the objective of the service.
Absolutely spot on. I would love to put that in neon lights, because I feel like I've been saying it for 10 years, because in my previous life working with accountants using the downloadable software, and now with the cloud, it is not about the product. You are a professional service firm and you deliver a service, and they don't care if you use Excel or QuickBooks or Xero or ProfitSee or whatever. They really don't. They want the result, and you know this. You guys know this as well as I do. We are at the getting to the close of our time. I have about 2 more short things to say. If you need to go, that is totally fine. If you can hang on for a minute or two, I just want to address that what this just brings together what we've been talking about marketing-wise. I'm looking at it with a marketing hat. That this is the prospect journey used to be, I search for an accountant, I find an accountant, I buy. Now, and this is a slide I used when I was presenting at the Institute of Chartered Accountants this week, this is more the prospect journey. You know, you go through a lot of steps and a lot of, well, I'll download this and I'll look at this and I'll think about that and I'll attend, even look at this, attend a webinar, I'll consider that, I'll download, I'll try a free thing. The same applies to your existing clients, because even though they've purchased something from you, accounts, bookkeeping, tax, whatever, they're still going to talk to you and consider things and ask questions and do nothing for a while and then do more and then have a meeting and then cancel it. And they do eventually buy more. But when you're doing management accounts with them and you're meeting regularly, you have a better opportunity to be offering them more. And it's not even sales. You just say, oh, well, we could help you with that. And then you kind of mention that it's an extra whatever, and let them choose if they want to add that on. So I think that's a really important point. I'm not going to belabor these points because I think we already talked about it, focusing on the results. But do have a package, whether you share the package with them or you just know it in your head, but have a clear understanding of what you're offering, how much time it takes, what they get at the end of it. Use your own name and branding. I've got a firm right now we're working with in the States. I wish very much that I could share what we're developing for them, but we're not going to until it's ready and launched. But it is awesome. He has taken all of this kind of stuff related to helping not just management accounts, but the whole picture, and he's got a brand for what it's called, and we've got landing pages, and it's going to be phenomenal, but it's their thing. It belongs to them. It's got their name and their brand on it. You can do the same thing, whether you go the route of having somebody develop all the marketing for it, or whether you just give it a name, put it in a Word document, it's fine. Either one is fine. You can, again, keep it simple. And just remember that customer journey. So in terms of what you can do, I've got a few things here I'm not going to belabor the point. There's two. If you need some help, I mentioned the outsourced marketing packages. Talk to us if we can help you with that. If you've got it on your own, that's absolutely fine. If you want to trial ProfitSee, Peter mentioned, if you're on Xero, you've got that already. If they're not on Xero, I presume, Peter, that there is a free trial.
There is a 14-day free trial. Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. So basically, you can try it regardless. But yeah, if you have any questions, I haven't seen any more coming in, so I think we're okay there. So if you have specific questions for me or Peter, go to either of those websites, and you'll end up connecting with either of us. But thank you so much for taking the time today. Peter, thanks for joining us. I'm sorry that we couldn't be in the same location, but really appreciate your taking the time.
Karen, every time we've been connected, I just have a delightful time. It's just fun to talk to you. So.
Oh, great. Well, thank you guys so much for joining us, and do drop us a note if you have questions about any of that, and we will see you on another webinar soon. Bye.
Thanks, everyone.